So as I mentioned, we're going to be doing just a review on session, and we're going to be doing it in Django. What I wanted to build today is something pretty simple, but basically we want to ask a user what that user's favorite color is, all right? And then depending on what that person says, let's just change the background on the page to match that color. And one other thing I thought might be nice to throw in there, because in Ninja Gold, you know how you guys have the activities list of things that happen? We could also have a list of different colors that the person has picked, okay? So basically, like along with the time, we'll say, you know, you picked this at this time or whatever. So it's just going to be a one-page application. We'll have a form that will take in some information, and then obviously we'll store that information once the person has selected something, okay? So what's the first step when I'm going to start a Django project? Where do I want to start?
Start making a folder. Activate your environment.
Very good. Yeah, we've got to activate the environment because we're going to use the Django CLI to actually create the project for us, right? So I'll go source, up a couple levels. Actually, I think only up one level into environments, Django, and activate. Okay, so we're good there. Now I want to create a project, right? What's going to be the command I need to run to do that?
Django admin.
Start project.
Okay. Start project. Let's just call it Django session. Okay, cool. And then generally I want to open that up in my actual VS Code so I can see everything that's there. So I'll just say code Django session. Okay, great. So I've got this whole thing open up in VS Code. However, if I open up my terminal here, what happened to my environment? Yeah, it's no longer activated. It's not activated in this particular terminal window, right? And I've kind of seen this issue with a couple of you guys going around checking assignments. Sometimes you'll have the environment activated in one terminal window, but then you're trying to run the project in a different one. You notice it doesn't work, right? Because then whatever terminal you're in that doesn't have the activated environment doesn't have access to Django or whatever dependencies you needed, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and activate it again. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but not too big of a deal. Django and activate. Because I opened an entirely new window with this project, right? So in order for me to run it from this terminal that I have down here, I need to have that activated. Okay. So what else do we need to do now that we've created this project? Now we want to kind of start building some things out. What would be the next step? Create an apps folder. Very good. So let's do that. So we'll say make dir apps. Let me try to make this bigger. Okay, cool. And then what do we want to do next?
Put an apps folder in that apps folder.
I want to nest another apps folder. Apps on apps on apps. All right.
You want to create the app name?
All right. Yeah. Let's actually create an app from
This is
within
when you're
our
using
apps folder.
The Django to populate a bunch of files for you, or is this the empty?
So we've already done that. It basically created the app shell for us, but now we're gonna use it to create a single app, right? The main app that's gonna do whatever it is we want to do. So let's go inside that apps directory or that apps folder, and then if you guys are on Windows, we need to create that init.py file, right? Okay. So there's that. And now that we're in the apps folder, what command do we need to run to actually create an app?
Python manage.py.
Nice.
So manage.py is one level out. Yeah. So let's get there. All right.
Start the app. And then the app name.
Okay. And then we're going to call the app, and I'm just going to call mine main. All right. So now inside of our apps folder here, we should have a main app now, and it's got most of the things we need. So we've got a views.py. We obviously don't have the urls.py, but we'll rectify that, right? Okay.
So when you ran the touch init.py,
Mhm.
that didn't really do much for Mac, but it's for Windows users.
Yeah, I could on Mac. I can get away without creating this file. At least it doesn't seem to cause me any issues. But I'm just going through the process because some of you guys are on Windows.
What does that init do?
It basically is telling Python that we can look inside this directory to find files that we need. So it's just singling it out as this directory may have files that we need to import. No, you can see it's completely blank. So that's what when you say touch and then the file name, it just creates an empty file. Okay, so you don't have to put anything in there. It's basically just again like a signal to tell it, there may be some files in this directory that we're interested in. Okay, so what else do we want to do now?
Should you put the URLs in the app name that you just...
Okay, yeah. So what I might do actually before I even do that is to handle the. So we're gonna have a URLs file inside here, right? So again, this is kind of the confusing thing is that I have this Django session folder that's inside my Django session project. Okay, so in this urls.py, what are we going to need to do?
Add whatever you name your app pathway.
Right.
Install that.
Yeah, actually, before we do that, I was thinking the same thing. Let's just hop in the settings and then add our application, right? So I mean, that should probably be the first thing we want to do. Okay, so let's find installed apps here, and then how do I want to type this in? Okay. Yeah, the name of my app was main. And then make sure we put that comma in there, because again, this is a list. Okay. What's the deal with this? Why are we using dots?
The same where it's located.
Yeah, exactly. So this is telling us where is it located. So it's apps, and then inside that folder, we want main. We want the main folder.
There's another. It's kind of like in the CLI when you do double dots, it means go up a folder. But if you use a single dot, it means stay in that same folder.
Correct. Exactly. All right, good. So we've got our app linked in there. Let me close that out. And then let's get back to this urls.py. So we were going to do something here, right?
This is the pathway.
Yeah, so what were we going to put in here?
It should say URL parentheses R.
Okay.
Single quote.
Yeah, so I've decided I'm not going to use the admin for right now. So what else do we need to import here from
The
include function, right? Okay. Cool. All right, and then the URL pattern that I'm going to use here is just going to be r hat, and then where do we want that to go? Okay. So yes, it does, but how do I have to reference it in here? So how am I going to actually? So we're going to invoke the include function, right? Include.
That needs quotation.
And then, yeah, we're going to pass this in as a string, so we'll just say apps.main.urls. Okay. Real quick, Linda, what does this mean? Line 20.
So I know that R is for initiating where the thing that we type in goes.
Okay. So a regular expression, right? Okay.
And then I don't know if it's using a little $sign.
For the end of the path?
Yeah.
You don't want to include the $sign or the caret or the up caret. Is that what's called?
Well, the hat's right in there.
The hat.
So the
is,
hat means that's the beginning of the pattern.
Yeah, and
Right.
if there's nothing in there, or if you put the $sign, then it's ending everything. but you're gonna direct it to another URL pattern that's gonna continue the routing, the URL routing. So if you put the $sign there, it'll say stop looking for anything after that, and then you won't be able to include anything. Since you're using the include, you don't want the $sign because it's gonna say nothing else comes after.
Cool, thank you. I did not know that.
Okay.
That makes sense. So then
Good. Yeah. So as Michael was saying, if we capped off the pattern right there, basically that means we're only going to look at the index route, right? The root route, and that's it. But we don't want it to be limited to just the root route, because we're obviously going to have at least one other route to handle a form submission, right?
So then that says URL, so that's a function. URL is a function. And
Mhm.
within that function,
Good.
we have the routing. And then we're including I know we're in the apps folder, and then within the apps we're in the main section or
Folder, right?
folder.
Good.
And then the dot, are we going to the URLs?
So yeah, then inside main, I'm expecting that there's going to be a urls.py, right?
But there's not right now.
Is there one? Yeah, so there is not one there right now. What are we going to have to do next to actually remedy that?
Touch it.
Yeah, we're going to have to create it. All right, yeah, touchy. Let's get that going. All right, cool. So inside of our main, let's create this file, urls.py. Cool. And then I'm going to import, again, this same thing, this URL, because I'm going to need to use that, right? Okay. What else are we going to import in our URLs file? Sure.
Where it was like URL and then like the parentheses and the stuff inside.
Right.
Yeah, what exactly is going on? Like I understand the inside, but like what does that mean? Like,
What this
calling
means is that
URL?
we're basically registering this particular URL pattern with Django and telling it. So if we start a pattern at nothing, basically at the index of the application, we want it to use all of this routing that we have in that particular URLs file. Okay. So there are sort of two levels of routing going on in Django. There's the project routing, which is the overall routing, and then we have the app-based routing. Okay. So we want to take the routing that's happening on the project level and then route it or sort of pass it to that specific app, which is our main app.
But are you like invoking something when you do URL parentheses?
Mm-hmm.
You're invoking a function, right?
Yes, you are.
And then you're writing two parameters. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, we're passing two arguments in here, right? So the first argument is going to be what is the route pattern that I'm looking for, and then the second argument is where do I want to, or how do I want this to be handled? Okay.
So for that one that you have right there, or you see the admin one, would
Oh, this one right here.
yeah, and the one above it, there's a hidden / that would be in the URL if you just were routed to those.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true? Like it's abstracted out of there, kind of?
Yeah, so basically if we're doing some kind of pattern that actually starts with something, so it's not just starting at the root of the application, you'd want to put this / at the end of the pattern to indicate that that pattern will continue in whatever app you're using for it.
But for the first one, it's just hidden. It's not there. That first /.
Yeah, so we don't need the / if we're doing it at the root level. Okay. No problem. So we're back here. What else do we need to import in our app, our individual apps URLs?
Can I have a question?
Yeah.
What was the shortcut you tapped to like import that line? I saw you
use
use.
copy and paste.
Yeah, it was no
Sorry,
shortcut there.
I think you have some.
You could definitely create one though. It's possible. Basically, you could do so you can create a Python snippet that would, when you type something in, it'll just fill out the line as you want to do it. In fact, I'll probably create one for something else that just came to my mind. But yeah, snippets are really great.
Yeah, I saw you type it and I checked on the extension. I did put Python.
Yeah, that's all it is. So we do want to bring in one other thing here, and what is that?
What is that line So from Django.
Mhm.
Configure or what?
It's
Django.conf.
the same name of the file.
So yeah, I mean, we're doing the same kind of thing. So inside Django, we would be going into the conf directory, right?
Oh,
And then into the URLs file.
But I was looking for that in Finder and I couldn't find where that conf was.
Well, because the thing is, that would be inside your environment, right? So
Um,
in your environment is where you've actually installed Django. So if we open up the environment, we would be able to traverse through and find that file. Yeah. Okay. So there's one other thing that I need inside my urls.py. What is that? I need to bring in my views, right? So the views are right here. They're on the same level. So how do I do that?
From
From dot, meaning the same directory that we're in. Import views. Okay. Now here, how do I set up my URLs?
make a list
Make a list. Okay, what do we set that variable equal to?
URL.
URL patterns.
Patterns. Okay, equals this list. Okay, and we'll probably have a couple different URLs. We're just going to have our index, which will have the form and so forth, and then we'll have one other URL where we can handle the form submission, right? Okay. So let's do a URL here, and then my pattern is just going to be nothing, but I'll put this $ after here. Why am I doing this, Linda?
because that's like the end of the route. We don't want to go anywhere else.
Correct. Yeah, I just want to end the pattern right there. So if we hit that index route, let's do this logic, right? And then what are we typically going to do once we hit that root route? Okay, so we're not going to do any rendering here inside the urls.py, but what am I going to pass in here as the handler function?
Oh, use.
Okay, views, and then what?
Whatever method you want.
Okay, so let's just call it index, right? And I haven't created that yet. And then we'll have one other URL here. What do we want to call this? Maybe like, shoot. Let's create a post route to colors, right? Because we're going to be submitting something saying what our favorite color is.
No, that second line. So now you're doing from. So I know you're doing import views, so you're importing views. But what is that space, that dot, like that from space dot space?
Oh, up here on line 2?
Yeah.
So on line 2, what we're saying is from the current directory that we're in, let's import views. And views is this file right here. Okay, so all the functions that our views file has in it will now be available to us here inside our URLs.
No, I feel like a space, like as opposed to the other ones.
Space between what specifically?
There's
So
like a
The
space.
dot represents here. So instead of saying like django.conf.urls, you just put a
Oh.
period, and it represents the folder that you're in currently.
Okay. All right, so we've got this other route here, and again, I'm going to have to create some kind of a handler function for this, right? But let's just call it views, maybe .colors, since just to match it up. So sometimes it may be easy for you guys to know, okay, if I'm using this colors function, it also matches up with this route pattern. Just something to kind of help you keep track of what's going on. Now this is going to be simple, and we're not going to have a ton of stuff going on. So let's go inside this views file here because we don't have any functions yet. What routes or what functions am I going to want to create here?
Index one.
Okay, let's create an index, right? The index needs to take in what?
the request.
The request itself.
And you need to import the request.
Okay, do I?
I think it's already there.
Yeah. So when this function gets called, they're going to provide the request to us at that point, so we don't need to actually bring it into the file. Okay, so what do we want to do when we hit that index route?
Have it open an index.html file.
Render.
Yeah, probably something like that, right? So we've already imported this render function, so let's use it. All right. let's go return render, and then when we invoke this render function, what's the first thing we need to pass to it? The request. Okay. And then the second thing is going to be what?
File that you want to
Index.
Correct. Yeah, the name of the file that I want to be rendered. Okay. So we haven't created this yet, but let's say it's going to be the name of our app, which is main, and then it's just going to be index.html, right? Okay. Do we want to pass anything else to the to this template when it gets rendered? Yeah, it kind of depends. So there are a couple ways that we can access session. Either we should be able to access it directly in the template, or if we wanted, we can pass it through in some kind of a dictionary, right? Would you guys prefer to do it that way, like pass it through in a dictionary?
see. Can you only
You
have
wanna
one
do that?
dictionary or one per method?
Yeah, we would have to have just one dictionary.
Why are you doing?
Well, we talked about creating a dictionary, right?
Why are you creating a dictionary?
So we can
So that the template will have access to it. So that I could call something out in the template, and we'll have it here in the dictionary. So that's where we're going to get access to it. All right. So let's say we'll just call this favorite color. And then we'll say request dot session favorite, like that. Okay. Maybe we'll just call it favorite for now. All right. So what would I probably want to do if I first hit this application and I don't yet have a session happening? What might I want to do?
put something.
Session.
Put something in there, yeah.
Like
Maybe just create like a default favorite color, right? So that by default, if they haven't picked one, we'll just make it transparent. All right, let's do that real quick. So we'll just say if, and how do we check for this? So we're looking for favorite. So if favorite not in request.session, then I want to put it in there, right? Okay, so then we could say request.session, and then we'll say at favorite equals transparent.
That's your favorite color.
No, it's not my favorite color. I'm just saying if they haven't picked one yet, let's just have the default background be transparent, right? All right. I mean, I guess we could make it white. Whatever you guys want. Whatever you guys want to do, that would essentially accomplish the same thing, right? Yellow.
Egg.
Tax.
I don't know if egg is a legitimate CSS color. Does anyone know?
Yeah.
It is. Okay. All right. So let's get this going. We haven't created this template yet, right? So let's make that. Where am I going to put that?
You have to make a templates folder.
Okay. Good. So we're going to make it inside this main app, right? So go templates. Okay. And then I'm going to create a subfolder. Why am I doing this?
So that when you open them up, they're in different pathways.
So that we don't run into any possible naming collisions, right? Now we're not really going to run into that sort of thing since we're only running a single app at a time here, but it could happen in a larger project. Okay, so inside my main, I'm just going to create this index.html. All right, and then we'll create some boilerplate here. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to tap into the favorite color that's in session, right? And we're passing this in through that dictionary. So how might I do that to style the page? What do you guys think?
You want to connect the CSS file? Or what-
Maybe, yeah. Although we're going to use the color directly. I wasn't going to really use a class for it in this case.
so it's curly brace %.
So I'm not going to load it. I wasn't planning to load any static files, which I think is what you're getting
okay.
at, right? So load static. Let's just create, oops, that up here. Okay. All right, so how do I target? Basically, I just want to target the body of the document, right? All right, so let's do that. We'll target the body, and then I'll say background. And then how am I going to output the favorite color here?
Double mustache.
Okay. Cool. So I think we called it favorite color, right? Okay. Seems like they're not really liking that, right? That we're using the double mustaches inside of a style tag. Yes, we do. Is that why it's griping at it though?
No, it's
Huh. All right. Well, hopefully this should still work. All right, cool. So we got that part. We probably also need a form to accept the favorite color, right? Okay, so let's create that real quick. Form. And then what's my action going to be? So if I look back here at my urls.py, yeah, we're taking it in colors, right? Okay, so / colors, and then what's my method going to be? Yeah, most of the time we'll be using post. Okay. Let's just call, do you guys want to do like a free type in or a drop down or something? Matter to you? Drop down? Drop down?
Drop down.
Okay. Drop down it is. So label, let's get rid of that. Favorite color. Okay, so you guys know how we do a drop down? Yeah, we're going to do a select. Exactly. Okay, select. And then what are we going to call this? We'll just call it color, right? Quick question. What does this mean when we name the input? What's the use of that?
It's like a tag.
Okay.
So you use it in the server by the
Isn't that
use.
the dictionary?
So yeah, when we check our form on the back end once it's submitted, we need to reference this specific input, right? So we'll be able to use that using its name.
That's the key.
That's the key. Correct.
And you can set the value too as well, right?
You can, yeah. So if I were to set the value in here, it should show that as selected up ahead, right? Okay, before the user does anything. Okay. All right. So so what colors do we want to put in here? Yeah. Mustard. Okay.
Really?
All right, mustard. I don't know. Let's start out with some simple stuff maybe, and then branch out from there. Maybe like blue, red, green, or whatever. RGB. Cyan. Okay, let me duplicate that a couple times. We'll say blue, indigo. All right. Green. Oops. Goldenrod.
That's a real one.
All right. Well, we got to use it then.
It's like a.
Is there a hyphen in that or no? Just goldenrod.
It's awesome.
Jesus, goldenrod. I need to see what that looks like. All right, cool. You got any other avant-garde colors that we can use here?
Avant-garde red.
Or we could use, have you guys ever seen fire brick before?
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, that's kind of nice.
Good one.
Fire brick.
It's a classy color.
It's a brick that's on fire. All right. All right, maybe indigo I heard, I think. All right, that should be a legit CSS color. Does anyone know if it is? Pretty sure it is, yeah. Indigo. All right, cool. So we're in pretty good shape. We got this select drop down. We've got our button. So that's all good. We don't have anything to process this yet, but actually we should probably test to make sure this whole thing's working so that we don't break anything, right? One thing I should warn you, it's probably not going to work yet because we haven't run our migrations. So when you're trying to use session in Django, it will growl at you if you haven't yet run your migrations, okay? Migrations are going to be for the database portion. What's the other thing that I need to put inside this form, by the way? Anyone remember?
Oh, that percent thing.
No.
Percent sign with curlies? Okay, yeah, I mean, it will be curlies with percent, and then what's inside there?
For the season.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Last season,
Sea surf, right? Boom. All right, now that is again, that's a snippet that I created, so don't think that you can do that on your own. You can create your own snippets, though. All right, so let's see if we can run this.
We have a snippets class.
Yeah, we probably should.
Good sesh.
Okay, so let me get out of there. All right, how do I try to run the app? Anyone?
Python manage.py web server.
Fair enough. No attribute colors. What? Didn't we save this? Oh, we haven't even created. Okay, let's just create the placeholder method, right? So we'll say colors, take send request, and we could put pass in there. Exactly. Okay, cool. So now we're running. Let's open this up, see what it looks like. 8,000. Yeah, look at all those tabs. Okay, so now we're getting this error, and this is kind of what I was telling you guys about, is that if we haven't run migrations yet, it's gonna get angry. So it's saying no such table, Django session. So it actually uses the session in Django actually uses the database, which means that we have to migrate the database before we use it. Okay. So let's go through that real quick. We're gonna need to know how to do this anyway for when we're interacting with the database. So we'll just learn it today. Okay, so when we're using the database, we have to do two pretty simple processes here. One is that we have to make our migrations, so it's going to make a file for us. So the way that we do that is by Python, and then again we access this manage.py file, and then we say make migrations. Okay, and here it's saying no changes detected. So inside of our migrations here, it appears that we don't have any migrations because there were no changes detected, right? But I still need to run them in order to use session. So what we have to do for that is, again, we're going to say Python manage.py, and then this time we're just going to say migrate. Okay, so those are the two steps you have to do every time you're either going to use session and or the database. We have to do make migrations and then migrate. Okay, so we migrated. Now let's try running the app one more time. There we go. Run the server. Let's hit this again. Okay, great. Now we've got something on the screen here. Let me just inspect this and see if our color was coming through. So inside the head here, we'll see we've got the background color of white. Where'd it go? Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. So even though it was kind of mad at us for using those double mustache tags in there, it still was okay, right? Okay, cool. So now, what do we need to do on this form submission? That's kind of the thing that we need to set up at this point, right? What do I want to do when I get a form submission here?
Check if the method is post.
Check if the what?
Method is post.
Okay, sure, let's do that.
I have a question about that. I'm not quite able to differentiate between hit and post, because they're kind of similar a little bit. You can explain it.
Yeah, so the post, when we make a post request, we don't see any information in the address bar when that request has been made. So if I submit a form that has a whole bunch of different inputs, I'm not going to see in the address bar any of the information that I put for those specific inputs. Versus a GET request, we would see all of those in the address bar. So if I made a GET request and it was like first name and last name or whatever, you'd see up in the address bar, first name equals this, and then the little ampersand, last name equals that. And that would all come out after a question mark. Okay? So the value of GET requests in regards to forms is that I can actually share that address with someone else. So if I made a search for something on Amazon, for instance, or on Google or whatever, I could then share that address of the web page with my friend and say, hey, go check out these search results here. Now, anytime we actually load up a page by just going to an address on the internet, what kind of request is that?
You're just going to the page?
Mhm.
That's just a post.
No.
GET.
Yes. Yeah, it's a GET
It's a bit
request.
difficult.
You know why?
Yeah.
It's getting? You know why it's getting?
Because we're just going to our
Would you say if you're getting something, you're getting it from a server?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are getting it from a server, right? So post is usually something that we use when we're trying to make a change to some sort of resource. So if let's say I'm logging in, or I'm creating or I'm registering with a website, that's making some change with the server, right? So if I'm registering, I'm creating a new user.
Okay.
Or if I'm logging in, generally I'm creating a new session. Okay?
What would be a good example of GET? Like when you would want to use a GET request
For a form.
for a form?
Yeah, like if we're doing a search. Some sort of search that I may want to share with someone else.
Or like when you just want something to pull up, like something visible, right?
Something visible? Yeah, I mean usually if we're doing generally if we're doing a GET request in a form, that means that we're probably going to render something on whatever the resulting page is. Versus when we're doing a post request, we're generally not going to render anything when we land at that route. We're going to do some processing, right, and then just redirect them back somewhere else.
So we don't want it to show.
Yeah, we generally don't want to render something on the post request, because then if they click refresh, what's going to happen?
We're gonna see whatever they just inputted. We're gonna see all that information.
It's not that you're going to see it; is that they could potentially resubmit the form. It's going to ask them confirm form submission or something like that. They may say yes, not knowing whether it's gone through or not, and inadvertently submit the form again. So if they had been in the process of purchasing something, well, they may do a double submit, and that's not good. Right? Okay. Cool. So we were just asking here, if the request.method equals post, what do we want to do then?
If it's
Session?
post, we want to redirect.
Okay, yeah, eventually we're going to redirect. I'll just put that down here because we know that it's going to happen, right? We're going to return a redirect. Do we have that yet available? Look at line 1.
Not yet.
Not yet, so let's import it, right?
Wait, Morley, also when it's post, can't you just you can like render like another template, like saying thank you for your purchase and then like redirect? Can you do that also?
Wait, say that again. Render and then redirect?
So like if
You
I,
can't do both like that.
if I make a purchase online and then I can submit, then that's my post, right?
Okay.
And then you as the business guy can send me a thank you, right? So that can render another template and then it can redirect me back to the main page. Is that how it works?
Well, I mean, you could potentially like redirect someone later using JavaScript, but in terms of the server side stuff, we can't really render and redirect in the same handle. If I redirect, it's going to cause a whole new HTTP request response cycle. Okay. All right, good. So here we're just going to redirect at the end back to the index route, but what do I want to do inside here? So if we find that the request method is post, what do we want to do there?
Store some of that.
Store something, right? Where are we storing it?
Session.
Session. Okay, so we're going to say request dot session, and then what was the key? I think I was just calling it favorite, right? Okay. Oops. And what's that going to be equal to? So in my form, we called it color, right? Okay. So probably best practice for you guys would be to make these things match a little bit more. I didn't really do a great job of that, but so how am I going to get to that specific input for my form? Okay. Okay, and then color, right? You're not going to remember that? So you said? Well, it's basically not any different than what we were seeing with request.form in Flask, right? The casing is different. Here we're in all caps versus in Flask we're in lowercase. But then the word obviously is different. So we're using request.post, not request.form. Otherwise, not that different, right?
I'm gonna try to remember that.
Okay. All right. Anything else we need to do, or are we pretty much good here? I think that's pretty good, right? We just saved it to the session. Now we can redirect. All right. Let's try it out. Ooh, that's pretty sweet. Goldenrod, yeah, right away, right? There it is.
That dark
Check out Firebrick.
Ooh,
Okay,
that's nice.
it's pretty cool. We gotta look at Indigo too, right? All right, it's pretty sweet.
I like it.
Okay. Do we want to do the list of activities, or is that just kind of like, yeah, whatever for you guys?
List of activities.
Yeah, like basically, these are the colors that you've chosen thus far, kind of thing.
Oh, sure.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. So let's make a change in here. So inside of our views, rather than just setting up this favorite, what else do I want to probably set up? So if this is the first time they're visiting the app, what else might I want to put in the session? Because again, we want to have this list of activities, right?
Some kind of string.
Favorite list.
I don't really like a string as much. What kind of data structure? A list, right? What they've chosen. So kind of like in Ninja Gold, remember how each time you visit a different building or whatever, you basically put in, you visited such and such and you earned this much gold. Remember that? So it'll be kind of similar. All right, so we'll just call this request.session maybe activities. Okay, is just some empty list. Wow, why did I put a semicolon there? All right, cool. Now what we want to do is that every time we hit this form, what do we want to do? In addition to just setting the favorite in there.
Quest.session. And then what do we call it up there?
So we're calling it activities. Okay.
Equal to request dot post. Whatever we're going to call it.
Yeah, so maybe we can just save this color in a variable, right? Let's just go color equals this thing over here. Drop that up there, and then here we'll say color, right? All right, and then what do we want to store here? So if I want to add to this list, how can I do that? Append. Seems like a pretty good idea, right? And then what I want to append is just a dictionary. So in the dictionary, we'll have the color that was picked, and then the time that it happened, right? Okay, so let's just create this little dictionary here. We'll say color And what am I going to set that equal to? Anyone? Line 15? All right, yeah, the variable color, right? Because that's actually storing the color that we picked. Okay, cool. And then we'll say maybe timestamp. Where am I going to get the timestamp? You guys who did Ninja Gold.
Import time date.
So I think it's from date time, right? And then you would import date time. Which seems quite strange, but then date time has this method called now, right? Okay, so we'll just use that, right? Okay, so down here we'll say date time dot now. Okay, construct a date time. That's what we want. Cool. Now we should probably end our session so that we can kind of start fresh. So let's go out here, and then inside my application, I'll just go into cookies, and I'm going to clear all of them. So that should basically wipe out my session so that I'm starting fresh. So again, cool, we're starting again, right? And then the only other thing I'm going to need here is we're going to pass this into the template so that we can print out our list, right? So that we can kind of iterate through it and say you did this at this particular time. Okay. So when we hit our index route, what else do I want to add to this dictionary? Just for fun. Where's your sense of adventure? No, it's really just to learn how to do it. And then, you know, like if you guys do Ninja Gold and Django, which you should be, you'll be doing this kind of thing. All right. Okay, cool. All right, so what else do we want to pass to the template? Activities, right? Okay, and that is from request.session, right? Activities. Great. So now what we can do is we can iterate through those in the template. All right. How am I going to do that? Mark, I was going to ask Mark. Mark. You're fired. Okay, Alejandro, how am I going to iterate through the activities? I saw his eyes blink when I asked him. I was like, wait, what? So we've been working on iterating, right? How would we iterate through a list of things? Just generally, not even inside Django. So again, don't worry about like Django syntax right now, but how would I just iterate through a list in Python?
Like when you go through the list, like when you go through all of the things on the list.
Remember we were doing it yesterday? We were going through just the items in a list and we were basically adding them all up. Remember we were summing everything that was in the list? There were a bunch of numbers. How do we do that? Use A? Wait, say that again? Oh, okay. You're trying to jog his memory.
Yeah.
Hey, there's Mark. Just in time, man.
What did you use?
All right, maybe Mark can rescue. Mark, I'm trying to iterate through a list of activities. So every time a user submits a favorite color, we're basically storing that into this list. Now I want to iterate through that list in my template here. How can I do that?
I'm not sure. I'm not there yet.
But how would I iterate through a list in Python? If I didn't need to know the index of each item, I just needed to know the actual item itself.
Is it the for loop?
Oh,
There you go.
Yeah.
For loop,
There
okay.
you go.
Good. What's the syntax of that for loop's gonna be?
It's going to be for and you add the I.
Okay.
For in
We don't
I,
really need
for-
I. We don't need to know the index of the thing, right? I just need to know what is that actual activity. Okay.
Or in list or something.
Yeah. So what are we gonna call it?
Or where we go. That's the colors. Key
Let's just say like for
or
choice
choice.
in activities, right? Okay, cool. And then what do I need to do down here? Because again, we're changing the logic inside of our template here, right?
Does choice represent a key value or a key?
What is choice?
Choice is representing the actual item in the list. And what is that item?
The whole key and key value?
Well, what's the item? So the items that we're appending to our list are of what type?
Colors.
We're not appending colors.
No, look at what we sent in, right? We appended a dictionary. So the list is just full of what? It's full of dictionaries. It's full of words. All right. Let's try to get a little more technical here. Okay, cool. So I want to end my for loop. How do I do that? End for, right? Okay. And then inside each one of these guys, I'm just going to do a p tag. And then let's just say something like you selected. And then how do I import, or how do I put in the rendered template what they chose? Okay, so we use the double mustaches, right? And then what am I going to put here? I'm hearing some different things.
Can you flip back
Who
over?
knows 100%? I want to see a hand on that.
Can you flip back over to views real quick?
Yeah, I understand. All right. That's what our dictionaries are going to look like. They're going to have these two key value pairs, right? Color and timestamp. Okay, so how do I reference that in here? Activities? No, any other guesses? Request? Whoa.
No.
Hold on a second. We're not doing anything with the request right now, right? Because we passed some information to the template.
Choice.
Choice, okay. Am I done? Remember, what kind of data type is choice?
That's a dictionary.
It's a dictionary, right?
It's one of the dictionaries in the dictionary.
In the list.
In the list, starting from the first one,
Wait, we have more than one dictionary?
depending on how
Potentially, yeah. I mean, in the beginning, we have none, right? Because we've just hit this out for the first time. We haven't made any choices.
Every time you change the color, that added color and timestamp to the dictionary.
But it's still the same dictionary.
It's a
No,
list
it's the
with
same
dictionary
list.
It's a list of dictionaries.
So the list doesn't change, but we're adding new dictionaries to it every time we make a new choice, right? Okay. All right. Am I done here? If I say choice,
Choice dot some.
okay. So we called a color, right?
Does brackets work in Django?
Oh,
I don't know. Let's find out. I think they do. No.
I don't think
I think we have to use dot notation.
so.
All right.
Sorry.
I mean, we can try it.
Yeah, let's try it.
Let's try it.
It's always good to just kind of like test things out, for yourself. Okay, and then we want to say when it happened, right?
Could you do a new p tag, or you want to be on the same line?
I'm just gonna be on the same line. So let's just say at a specific time here.
Activity.
So we called it timestamp. Okay. All right, now let's try to go back in here and see if this causes us problems.
Jason.
Is not Jason serializable?
We don't need them, huh?
We don't need what, the timestamp?
Jason's
Yeah, I think we do it right too.
big deal.
You override them.
Why is it trying to? Oh, it's trying to serialize that because it's putting it into the session. So anything that we put inside the session has to be serializable. Can I turn it into a string though?
That makes sense.
Does anybody know if I just try to cast this to a string,
Oh, I don't know.
if that would work? I don't know if it'll allow me to cast that like that, but whoops. Ooh. All right, guys, you got me there. Let's go with dot notation. Dot color. Dot timestamp. Whoa. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, that seemed to have worked. Okay, so we go red, goldenrod, fire brick. Okay. So dot notation it is. We confirm. Yes.
All saved in session.
What? Yeah, they're all saved in session. So we've got the hour, the minute, the seconds, and then
It's very precise.
yeah. Well, it's even more than milliseconds, right? We're going even further than that. We're going like 100,000th of a second.
And what that time zone is like somewhere else, right? Greenwich.
Oh yeah. So we came across this morning. If you guys want to change the time zone for your app, you can do so in the settings.
Oh, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Maybe I didn't do it right. I changed
So
it
time
to-
zone is going to be to UTC by default. You changed it to
I tried GMT and I tried PCT and
PTC.
PTC.
Pacific
PST.
time.
PSC.
Most.
Time zone?
Yeah, PST is Pacific Standard Time. Well, let's take a look at that then after this. All right.
This is live.
Okay. All right. Let's have thumbs on this. We got through everything. It took kind of a while, but sideways.
Greenwich.
Sideways.
Is that what it
A
is?
little shakiness over here. A little shakiness.
That was called Greenwich.
I always say Greenwich and I watched on TV and they're like Greenwich. Where's that?
Sideways, yeah. All right.
I don't know if that's actually right. Might just be whatever.
I mean, that sounds better than Greenwich.
Clarifications.
Mine was sideways just because I'm not in this.
The usual clarification. All right. Anything more specific than that? Like you did this and I didn't understand it.
I think I need more practice. I need to study how to access dictionary keys and key values
Okay.
in different Django
Django versus Flask.
class.
Yeah, I probably do too. Because I was thinking we could do with bracket notation. No,
I'm gonna struggle with that.
I was
And then there were a couple-
quickly proven wrong.
You added a few things that I haven't read on the Coding Dojo site where CS, what was the 1 4-letter CS?
Yes.
Oh, the
Okay.
cross-site request forgery token.
Yeah.
So every time we use a form inside Django, we have to include that inside the form. Otherwise,
Every
once
time.
you submit it, you're going to get an error saying that there was no token included with that submission.
And that thing creates like the hidden input thing.
Creates the hidden input that does that for you. So that Django then knows this request came from this application. It's just verifying
And what did you add at the very top?
that. Of the form?
Right before the head, I think? Or before the head ended?
Oh, that was just where we were doing our styling. So we're basing the background color of the page on whatever the favorite color that we pass into the template was. So this thing here, I just want to make sure you guys kind of understand how this context dictionary works. So here on line 10, when I'm rendering the template, I'm passing in the request, I'm also passing in the template name, and then the third argument is what we call a context dictionary. Okay? So inside that context, I can pass some different key value pairs of things that I want to be accessible in the template. Now in the platform, I think they'll probably show you to do it separately. So you'd have something like you just create a context variable like that, and then you put your key value pairs, and then you'd add that as the third argument. So instead of this, we would just go context.
But
Okay.
then when they said you do it that way, they said you can only have one dictionary. Because then when you put it in a method, you can make multiple.
No, it was still only one dictionary. It's just rather than creating it ahead of time before I got to rendering my template, I just created it right inside that function call.
Can you go back to how it is, please?
Yeah.
So, what's going on in that dictionary?
So in that dictionary, we were just setting some different key value pairs. So I'm setting a favorite color key, and then I'm setting its value to be equal to the session dictionary at this specific key, which is favorite.
And that's the name of the input thing?
No, that's the name of what we saved it to the session as. So see, when we were processing our form down here, you see how we said request.session at the favorite key equals color? That's where that came from.
And then we said we were creating multiple dictionaries? How is it multiple?
No, we weren't. It's just one. There's only this one dictionary right here. You see, I've got one set of curly braces.
But whenever we click that in color, that's how I created a new dictionary?
Yeah, but it's not creating it in here. Remember, we were appending to our list of activities here on line 24. So in session, I'm saving this list of activities, and every time the user does something, I'm just appending to that list, adding to it. Okay, I'm adding a dictionary because you can see we appended this dictionary here. It has a color and also a timestamp.
Is that what was displayed on the HTML page?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the thing that we were iterating through. Oops. Go back to where it's a little more visible. Yeah, so we were just going through that list. Okay. Any other clarifications? There was a whole lot of sideways today. Was this harder than session in Flask for you guys who did session in Flask? A little bit?
It's just more steps.
Yeah, I mean, again, the setup of Django is more involved. But once you get it set up, doing things with session, I think, is largely pretty similar, right?
It's very simple.
Okay, cool.
Well, we don't want session stuff to display on the HTML typically, right? If we want to save it to like the back end.
Depends on what you're
No, in this case, we did want to actually send it to the HTML because we wanted to show the user you pick these different colors. Now, that's not like sensitive information or anything. Cool.
Session information won't display unless you call it. So you can choose if you want to display it or not.
Yeah, exactly. So if I wanted to take something from the session and maybe pass it in a slightly different way to the view, I could still do that. I could take something that was in the session and then manipulate it in some way. If I wanted to add a number to it, I could try to do that, whatever. All right, cool. So if everyone's set, let's get to work. And you can